Hey everybody, and welcome back to my channel for this Saturday morning, afternoon or evening across the world where you may be at. And today I've got another video for you about the TV chef here in the UK called Gregg Wallace. Gregg Wallace is at the moment facing alleged, I have to say this for legal reasons, alleged sexual misconduct, sexual inappropriate behaviour charges, and he has recently been fired from the BBC, which here in the UK stands for the British Broadcasting Corporation. And basically he is a food critic slash TV chef, and he has been allegedly, again for legal reasons, allegedly accused of doing some sexual inappropriate comments to females that he's worked with on the show and TV production staff. And I want to read to you an article from the Independent newspaper here in the UK, which reads: Gregg Wallace reportedly warned about his behaviour by the BBC boss 6 years ago. Presenter was said to have been told the BBC would seriously need to consider its future working relationship with him. A BBC executive reportedly threatened to fire Gregg Wallace 6 years ago after the former Masterchef host was warned about his alleged workplace conduct. Reports emerged earlier this week that the 60-year-old has been banned from the broadcaster as executives lacked confidence that he'd be able to change what seems to be learned behaviour. In the letter of dismissal sent by the head of compliance to the BBC, Claire Powell, Wallace was told he would not get a job as a presenter on the channel again. A fresh report by the publication states that Kate Phillips, the BBC's current chief content officer, previously told Wallace in 2019 that he would be sacked if any further complaints were raised against him. Phillips said that the BBC will not tolerate behaviour to occur on any productions that it is inappropriate or unprofessional and or has the effect of individuals to feel sexually harassed. She added, "It would be regrettable and disappointing to learn of any further incidents, and in such circumstances the BBC would need to seriously consider the future working relationship with you." The letter is said to have been prompted by allegation about Wallace's behaviour on Impossible Celebrities and Celebrity Masterchef. In addition, Wallace was reportedly the subject of a HR review in 2023 due to allegedly making inappropriate comments about staff at a Nestle plant. Although he left the show soon afterwards, a review by production company Voltage TV did not find any findings against him. Wallace is facing multiple accusations, including claims that he made inappropriate sexual jokes, asked for the phone numbers of female production staff, and behaved unprofessionally around the female colleagues on set. He has strongly denied these allegations. Earlier this week, Wallace said he had been sacked as MasterChef presenter, and BBC News has said that it was approached by more than 50 people with new claims about the presenter. These claims, which Wallace strongly denies, include allegations that he groped a MasterChef colleague. The fresh claims come just days before the expected publication of a report by MasterChef production company Banjay, overseen by the law firm Lewis Silkin, in some of the separate claims made last year. Wallace is also now facing criticism from disability charities for appearing to link his alleged behaviour with his recent autism diagnosis. In a lengthy statement to Instagram on Tuesday, the former MasterChef host said that he had been formally diagnosed with autism and suggested that his neurodiversity was suspected and discussed by colleagues across countless seasons of the show. And this is part of the statement that he says: "This feels to me like BBC News is chasing slanderous clickbait rather than delivering impartial journalism. To be clear, the Silkins report exonerates me of all the serious allegations which made headlines last year and finds me primarily guilty of inappropriate language between 2005 and 2018. I recognise that some of my humour and language at times were inappropriate. For that I apologise without reservations. But I was never the caricature now being sold for clicks." That's what he wrote on his personal Instagram, which I'll link down below in the video description. He went on to say that TV bosses had failed to investigate my disability or protect me from what I now realise was a dangerous environment. Meanwhile, a friend of the presenter told The Times that Wallace could not wear underwear because of his autistic hypersensitivity to labels and tight clothing. I am sorry, I'm going to pause it right there for a minute. No. Yes, you may have sensitivities to textures, fabrics, materials, yes. Beyond autistic spectrum, we all have it to some degree. But there is no way that you can tell me right now that you cannot wear underwear in an environment that you work in because you're sensitive. Bullshit. That's bullshit and you know it. That's just a cop-out. Don't you dare use that. That is ridiculous. Seema Flower, founder of disabilities consultancy Blind Ambition, told BBC News that there was absolutely no excuse for inappropriate behaviour, stating, where does it leave us if we use autism as an excuse to behave in whatever way we like? A National Autistic Society spokesperson has said, every autistic person is different, just like every non-autistic person is different. So it is important not to generalise or make judgments based on the actions, words or behaviour of one individual. Wallace has now first stepped away from his role on Masterchef 9 months ago after the BBC received a number of complaints about his professional conduct. He was replaced by Grace Dent on the celebrity edition of the show and was also dropped as an ambassador for the charity Ambitious About Autism. His lawyers have said that it is entirely false that he engages in a behaviour of a sexually or harassing nature. In the same Instagram post adding his autism diagnosis, Wallace launched a lengthy tirade against the BBC, claiming that he had decided to speak out and share the findings of the months-long investigation into his on-set behaviour, which he described as full and forensic. He said that he cannot sit in silence while my reputation is further damaged to protect others, and stated that as the yet unpublished investigation exonerates me of all serious allegations which made headlines this time last year. The former greengrocer said that the report found him guilty of inappropriate language between 2005 and 2018. He apologised without reservation, adding, I recognise that some of my humour and language at times was inappropriate. He has maintained, however, that the report showed that the most damaging claims made against him, including allegations from public figures which have not been upheld, are baseless. I was hired by the BBC and Masterchef as a cheeky greengrocer, he continued, a real person with warmth, character, rough edges and all, for over 2 decades. That authenticity was part of the brand. Now, in a sanitised world, the same personality is now seen as a problem. The former Inside the Factory host also added that he will not go quietly and will not be cancelled for convenience. In response to Wallace's statement, the BBC told The Independent, Banji UK instructed the law firm Lewis Silkin to run an investigation into allegations against Gregg Wallace. We are not going to comment until the investigation is complete and the findings are now being published. So that is the article from The Independent, which has been updated. And now I'm going to jump to the Sun newspaper article, which was published, I believe, today or yesterday. So it says Acts for Good. Gregg Wallace, formerly sacked by the BBC as reporting to complaints about Masterchef star, reveals why he was sacked. Complaints about his behaviour date back to 2017. Gregg Wallace has been formally sacked by the BBC, citing learned behaviour as the reason for his axing. The report concludes that Gregg was diagnosed as autistic midway through the investigation into complaints against him, is unable to change his ways. And then it's a lot of pictures, and it says the findings seen by the presenter also reference reputational damage to the corporation in light of comments he has made about them since he was taken off air. Last night, a source says Gregg received his letter telling him that his MasterChef job was gone and that effectively his 21-year tenure at the BBC is now over. He's obviously in a pretty bad way and hasn't been sleeping all these past few days, but he's also incredibly angry and feels his autism has been used against him. Production company are basically saying that he's incapable of change. Learned behaviour, presumably from his years down the markets as a greengrocer, was given as a main factor for his inappropriate actions and further language. But given that this was a different production, first raised concerns about his neurodivergence in 2018, and the word appears through the 200-page report against him, he feels his autism has now been used against him. Oh, come on, Gregg. Don't play the autism victim card. Shut up. The report states that the company has a duty of care towards both him and the public, as well as the contributors and crew, that it is clear he struggles to distinguish the boundaries between appropriate and inappropriate behaviour. Therefore, they say they cannot guarantee a safe working environment if he is on that show. He is really angry that the complaints against him came before he was put on a course in 2019. He therefore feels that they are now discriminating against his autism and him, and that they are not effectively accommodating a disabled person. Oh, come on, Gregg. You did wrong. You've been busted. Own up. Man up. F fuck's sake, fuck off. The Sun can reveal Gregg's clinical term proposed clear accommodations shared directly with the BBC, outlining how a supportive environment could have been achieved. Well, yes and no. He believes the BBC have chosen to ignore this. This latest development comes after the newspaper revealed on Tuesday that the Star was to be fired, with the 7-month report into 30 historic complaints due to be published imminently. The Star has taken on bullish lawyer Dan Morrison, the man who has represented Nigel Farage against Nat West. He could now take Band J and the BBC to a tribunal. Gregg has hosted Masterchef alongside John Turturro since 2005, and it was also fronted other BBC programmes including Inside the Factory and Supermarket Secrets. In late 2024, it was reported that the BBC had been made well aware of complaints as far back as 2017, while it was claimed that a letter had been sent to the broadcaster in 2022 stating that women had been made to feel uncomfortable being in his presence. However, he had been cleared of a number of the most serious allegations, including those against high-profile complainants including Kirsty Walk and Penny Lancaster. While Gregg angrily slammed the BBC in his Instagram post, promising not to go quietly, the BBC had been keen to distance themselves from the presenter, saying that technically he was not an employee. So that's the end of that article, which I'll link again down the bottom of the video description. And then I'm going to read the BBC article, which was yesterday. Gregg Wallace faces backlash over autism defence. Former Masterchef host Gregg Wallace is facing criticism from charities and groups working with disabled people after he appeared to link claims of misconduct he is facing to his autism diagnosis. Several dozen people have now come forward to the BBC News with allegations about Wallace, including inappropriate sexual comments, touching and groping, which he strongly denies. In a statement this week, the presenter defended himself and also has said recently that he had been diagnosed with autism, that the TV bosses had failed to investigate his disability and protect me from what I now realise was a toxic and dangerous environment. Oh, come on, Gregg, do yourself a favour, mate, man up. You've been caught, you've even admitted you've done sexual inappropriate language, so what's the difference? Don't play the victim because now you've been busted. One charity told BBC News that autism is not a free pass for bad behaviour, while other groups warned that such remarks risk stigmatising further the autistic community. Wallace has now been sacked as Masterchef host, and the report into the accusations is expected to be published shortly. He has said it has cleared him of the most serious and yet sensational allegations. On Tuesday, Wallace wrote on his personal Instagram, "My neurodiversity, now formally diagnosed as autism, was suspected and discussed by colleagues across countless seasons of Masterchef. Yet nothing was done to investigate my disability or protect me from what I now realise was a dangerous environment for me for over 20 years. The Telegraph reported on Thursday that the plans to sue the BBC and the makers of Masterchef for discrimination on the grounds of his autism following his sacking. The Times have also reported friends of Wallace are saying his autism means that he can't wear underwear and that his condition was partially to blame for his alleged inappropriate behaviour. Speaking to BBC News, Seema Flower founder, so basically, yeah, I've reread this out. Emily Banks, founder of neurodiversity training body ENA. To be clear, being autistic is never an excuse for misconduct. It doesn't absolve anyone or anything of responsibility. And it certainly doesn't mean you can't tell the difference between right and wrong. Exactly, Gregg Wallace, you've been busted, mate. Own up. You've been found out and you've been dodgy for over 20 years. Jesus Christ, dude. Man up. Dan Harris, who runs the charity Neurodiversity in Business and is himself autistic, said people like him may miss social cues sometimes, but autism is not a free pass for any bad behaviour. Comments like this further stigmatise us and add an unfortunately negative focus on this community and our community. Last year, the charity ambitious about autism dropped Wallace as an ambassador in the wake of the original claims. These comments have also sparked online debate and radio phone-ins. On BBC Radio 2 Jeremy Vine show, Jessie Hewitson, director of Neuro Universe, said people with autism have been stereotyped since the dawn of time. She said that she thought that remarks like this risk forming a connection in people's minds, either that autistic people behave inappropriately in the workplace or that we cannot take personal responsibility for our actions. But on social media, many people responded positively to Wallace's post and sent him lots of supportive messages. And on BBC Radio 5 Live's Nikki Campbell show, which dedicated an hour to the topic on Thursday, some callers were sympathetic. One called Danielle, who is autistic, said people with the condition can misread social situations. I think growing up undiagnosed, you grow up thinking everything you're doing is wrong because you're different, and then you internalise a lot of that, so you're oversensitive. Another caller, Jake, said that he thought Wallace should have had support a long time ago. You've got a man here who's clearly out of his touch. He's been out of touch for quite a while. He said nobody putting him back online, whether that's an employer, whether that's a friend, whether that's anybody, and at the moment that's what he needs. He needs compassion to get him back where he needs to be. I feel this is for his mental health reasons. Report expected. As the face of BBC One cooking show Masterchef, Wallace, 60, was one of the most high-profile presenters on British television for 20 years. He has stepped aside from the show in November after an initial BBC News investigation where 13 people accused him of making inappropriate sexual comments. This week, new claims have now come from more than 50 people who say they encountered him across a range of shows in different settings. The majority said he made sexual inappropriate comments, while 11 women accused him of inappropriate sexual behaviour such as further groping and touching. The inquiry into the allegations of misconduct against Wallace has been conducted by an independent law firm on behalf of Masterchef's production company Banjay. BBC News has not seen the report, but Wallace said it has found the most damaging allegations to be baseless. He also accused the BBC of peddling baseless and sensationalised gossip masquerading as probably corroborated stories. A spokesperson for Wallace said he strongly denies engaging in behaviour of a sexually or harassing nature. Banjay UK has said, while the external investigation is ongoing, we won't be commenting on individual allegations. We encourage anyone wishing to raise the issues or concerns to contact us in due confidence. A BBC spokesperson says Banjay UK have instructed the law firm Lewis Silkin to run investigations into the allegations surrounding Gregg Wallace. We can't comment any further till the investigation is complete. So basically that's what they're saying. So as an autistic female, I really do worry about this, because this is going to risk stigmatising us and make the rest of us to sound like we're sexual deviants or sexual perverts, or that we are people who don't know the difference between wrong or right. And then I've got another article here from Personnel Today, and it reads, Gregg Wallace case, don't be too hasty to dismiss autism excuse, warns lawyer. This was put online yesterday. Amid the backlash over Gregg Wallace's use of his autism diagnosis to give a context to his inappropriate sexualised behaviour, one employment lawyer has argued that the BBC presenter should be taken seriously. Adam McCulloch examines 3 legal perspectives on this case. Many newspapers have this week encouraged ridicule of Gregg Wallace in the wake of his sacking from MasterChef, after the presenter revealed his autism diagnosis and stated it had a role in his sexualised inappropriate behaviour, some of which has been described as harassment. Samantha Dickinson, Equality and Diversity Partner at Mayo Wine Baxter, has pointed out that employers legally need to offer some measure of support to neurodivergent employees, even if their behaviour is socially awkward. Wallace was sacked after an investigation revealed additional examples of poor behaviour dating back more than 10 years. These include 11 women accusing him of inappropriate sexual behaviour, such as groping. One woman claimed he pulled down his trousers in a dressing room in front of her. Charities and groups working with disabled people were critical of the presenter after he has appeared to link claims of misconduct to his facing mental health. In a statement this week, Wallace said that he recently has been diagnosed with autism, that TV bosses have failed to support him. So basically he's trying to get away with it. Disability is not always neat. Dickinson said those who dismiss Wallace's explanation for his actions as nonsense were missing a vital point. She said employers have a legal obligation to understand and support neurodivergent employees, even if disability affects in complex, uncomfortable or socially awkward ways. Autistic traits like sensory sensitivity, differences in communication challenges and social boundaries are real. Despite this, said Dickinson, autism is not and should not be used as a label to explain away poor behaviour, nor should it shield anyone from being held accountable. There we go. Autism is not and should not and be not used as a label to explain away poor behaviour, nor should it shield anyone from being accountable. Thank you. So basically, Greg, you are being held accountable. You have been busted. You have admitted that you've used sexual inappropriate language. So therefore, you are guilty of some of it to a degree. So stop using the autism as a way to get out of it. It is wrong. It is disgusting. It is vile. And you're just a creepy guy in general. She pointed out if Wallace's claims were true and the BBC suspected he was neurodivergent but yet did nothing, they may need to reflect on their part in the failure to protect those Wallace has further harassed. Recently, the Employment Tribunal ruled that a candidate's diagnosis of ADHD and ASD was sufficient amount to disability and he succeeded in a discrimination case. His disability isn't always visible, neither neat or easy to navigate. Employers don't get to pick and choose which versions of the disability they're comfortable with accommodating. If someone's neurodivergent contributes to behaviour that crosses the line, the response shouldn't be silence or a dismissal. It should be structured support, clear boundaries and reasonable adjustment. Dickinson added, autism doesn't excuse harm, but it does demand understanding. That's not an indulgence, it's the legal law. So basically that's what this lawyer is saying, and there's a lot more information which I'm not going to read, but I'm sick of people trying to protect him. I'm sick of people trying to say that, oh, give him a break, leave him alone, you know, oh, he's struggling. I'm sorry, but if you're being a sexual perv, sexual deviant, sexual harasser, inappropriate, touchy-feely, gropey, creepy, disgusting piece of shit, then no. Stop using the autism as a way to get away with it, Greg. You are disgusting. You know right from wrong. You're 60 years old. Man up. Suck it up. Stop using your autism traits or your behaviour to get away with it. You've been busted. You've obviously done something behind closed doors which is now coming to light. Own it. Stand up. Say you're sorry. Admit that you need help and deal with it. Don't make people like us all tagged in the same box. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please like, comment, share and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!